Hey everybody, it's Jake from Sidedoor Media, and I just wanted to do a small video for artists, mainly rappers, who are maybe not mixing their own music, but they want to record it and send it out to be mixed. And, there's just a few things you need to get right. You need to get your mic, you need to get your room treated, you need to get your DAW set up correctly with the project at the right specs. So this isn't going to be a very in-depth video. We are going to go over a few terms, but it's going to cover just the basics. And I got this little twirly thing. So first thing is treating your room. So there's a few ways you can do it. You can go the cheap route, get blankets, use clovers, packing blankets. You can spend a bit of money to get some acoustic panels. Or you can make a portable vocal booth, which is what I did, and I'll go over that too also in this video. So when it comes to room treatment, we have to look at hard surfaces because they will reflect sounds back into your mic. Because of this, we need to dampen those surfaces near our recording space. We also need to take into account any other sources of sounds, so computer fan, nearby busy roads, or pets. Do not record in a small closet or in the corner of your room. Too many issues with buildup of bass frequencies along with other frequency issues. I'm not going to dive too deep in a lot of the reasoning behind this. You're going to have issues, and you might not hear it in the recording because, you're just an artist looking to record your stuff to send it to somebody. But guy or girl you send it to, when they get that, they're going to notice these issues. So, just a few things. Blankets, covers, packing blankets, acoustic panels. So the thinner absorption will only treat high frequencies, and lower frequencies will need to be treated with a thicker absorption material, like a bass trap. Just the way the sound waves work, it's harder to break up a lower frequency. It's longer. So if you're going to get acoustic panels, treat the walls starting at the position where your head would be at that height. So you should be standing when you're recording. Don't sit. It just opens up your chest more and you're able to give a better performance. You're able to take in more air. So look at your eye level and start putting up panels around the room. 360 degrees. Not 360. You know what I mean. Yeah, 360. Start there and then go up and below that and space them out. And then try like the clap test, which is just after you do all these type of treatments, clap and see if you hear an echo or a flutter, and just try to get it so you clap and that's it. You don't hear nothing. You probably won't be able to get there, but just aim for it. So get a rug if you have a hardwood floor. Get a sound reflector for your mic stand. These help. They don't help as much as you would think. And just make sure if you do get one that you're not placing it right up on the microphone. Like if this microphone was on a stand and this is a reflector, back it off because you're also going to have issues with frequencies around your mic if it's that close. If you have windows, get thick curtains. If you have a closet, use it to drape blankets on. If you just drape stuff everywhere, put your bed up on side of the wall. Use that as treatment if you want to. And mic placement is also going to help, but we'll talk about that in a different slide. So this is how I made my portable vocal booth. This isn't my apartment, but this is literally how mine looked like which is kind of crazy that somebody else, I found this picture online, somebody else did the same thing with the PVC pipe. I mean, it's an easy way to accomplish building one. Because what I wanted was something that was cheap and something I could break down and something I could do by myself. I didn't have to go out because I don't have a ton of tools. Go out, buy a bunch of tools. You know, you got wood. You know, you're going to make a vocal booth out of wood and stuff. It's like, ugh. And it wasn't going to be a permanent solution. So get your measurements, you know, of what you would like and go to vocalbooth2go.com. So you have these, they're really thick. And I think the pack I had was like 8 or 9 for like $300. So it's kind of like they're kind of charging it a bit more. But they have the holes already made. And that's awesome because you're going to have your Velcro and you're just going to strap them around, you know. And I didn't have one on top, but put one up top too and double up on the sides, you know. It would really help. All right, so let's talk about mics. So we're only focusing on 2 types, condenser and dynamic. And when I say condenser, I mean large diaphragm condenser. I'm not talking about those little guys. And we're not going to really talk about the pickup pattern selection. We're only going to use cardio. And large diaphragms, I believe all of them have this pickup pattern. But, you know, just double check before you buy stuff. Just look at the pickup patterns. Same goes for the dynamics, you know. See what pickup patterns. And just a little tangent. The quality of the mic is one of the most important factors when it comes to recording, besides your own performance. Your performance has to be great. You have to transfer your energy to the recording. If you want somebody to really like your stuff, they have to feel it. And they're not going to feel it if you don't feel it. So get your performance right. It doesn't matter if you have a $10,000 microphone. If your performance sucks, it's going to suck. You can only do so much. So anyway, and I suggest you save up and buy a mid-tier mic at least when starting out. Reverb.com has used audio gear. I've used it before. I used it for a lot of the gear in my studio. If you go, I have a little tour of the studio. A lot of that gear, like a lot of that gear was bought on Reverb.com. And I never had an issue. Everybody's cool. You know, eBay kind of, I don't know, I've had issues with eBay and I tend to stay away from them. But Reverb.com, check them out. Get a pop filter and a shock mount too, just so you're not, I know guys know about the pop filter, but, you know, get the shock mount. You know, you hear this, you know, the wobble. You don't want your mic picking that up. So get a shock mount, you know, the little rubber band cradle thing. Get one of those. All right, so a bit more about our mic types. So condensers capture great details due to sensitivity, needs power supply, and treat it like a newborn baby. And that just means they're delicate, you know. Respect them, you know. You got something $300, $200, $1,000, $5,000 in your hand, treat that with respect, because it can break. The sensitivity on both these, they're kind of like the opposite. One has less, one has more. And they're both a positive and negative depending on your room. And I'll explain why. So because of the sensitivity in the condenser microphone, you are going to be able to get more detail out of your vocal performance, which is awesome, right? But also, you know, if you're in a house and you got a loud neighbor, somebody's home, mom's home, rattling her keys, she's about to leave or whatever, you know, stuff like that can be picked up because they are very sensitive mics. When it comes to dynamic, and power supply, that just means phantom power. One needs it, one doesn't. One of the things you need to keep in mind is your power supply options. No power supply needed. less sensitive, which we said before could be a positive or negative. And this is because just the way dynamic microphones are made. But the good thing about the sensitivity is because it doesn't pick up everything. You could be at home and it's not picking up all that background noise. I mean, it can, but it has to be louder to be picked up. And also, you can use some of these dynamic mics as a hammer because they are built tough. Still respect them. So a few notables that I've used or heard really good things about. I've used the Bluebird condenser mic, and Blue puts out just really good stuff. And I've always heard good stuff about the Rode NTK. And then I use the SM7B dynamic mic. That was my first mic that we recorded with, and I still use it. Okay, so like I said, we're going to talk about pickup pattern and mic placement. So because we're using the cardioid pickup pattern, which is this darker black line, that's the cardioid. That means it's picking up everything inside this little area. It's doing its best to. So you're standing in here, la la la. And the awesome thing is that it's total 180. It is rejecting those sounds. And this is awesome because we can use that to help us with just keeping out noise out of our recordings. So like, I'll give you an example. I had the SM7B, like I said, at the old apartment, and there was a window, and right outside was a busy street. And it wasn't like super loud, but that was the loudest thing I had to combat. So what I did was, I built my little portable booth, and I knew where the window was. I looked right at it, and that's where your mic goes. Just look at the loudest thing. That's where your mic's going. You're going to be looking right at it. I mean, I couldn't see it. The booth was up. I knew where it was. And it will reject that sound, so it's going to help you out. So we'll just go over kind of briefly what an audio interface can do for you. What's its job? So it's not audio to digital, it's analog to digital. Transfer analog to digital and digital to analog. A to D and D to A converters. When you see that, that's what it means. And then it gives you options for XLR, line, instrument, and MIDI inputs, These are all different options that you are going to want to try to think about when buying an interface, because maybe you're like a producer also, so you want some MIDI. Maybe you want to record bands at some point, so you want more inputs. There's monitor and headphone outputs, and then maybe options for outboard gear, and we'll talk about that. I'll show you a setup and what to look for. So the connection type, USB, Thunderbolt, Ethernet, Firewire, PCI. So you want to go with a fast connection type. Don't get USB 1. Get Thunderbolt. And like I said before, we're going to be looking at how many inputs you need. So we're going to need one, right? So we're covered. Every audio interface has one input. And price and quality are kind of like combined, because nowadays you can get the quality you need at a reasonable price. I don't know if there's like any videos on YouTube that like they buy like the bottom barrel audio interfaces just to review them. So maybe not bottom of the barrel. Maybe don't go for the cheapest, something from China that you never heard of, but the brand name stuff is going to be fine. And then output options. This really isn't going to affect you that much unless maybe you do want to get more into the mixing side. So do you want multiple sets of monitors, different headphone multiple headphones, like for different mixes or outboard gear. So this are two different audio interfaces, the Inbox 2, which is an old interface, and the Sapphire Pro 40 from Focusrite. I'm using these two examples is because I've used both of these. This is the one I used up in my apartment back in the day. That's why I started out on. This is, if you're going to just be tracking your vocals, this type of input and output is all you'll ever need. One input, and then you have your stereo pair for monitors. Even has a little MIDI. Don't worry about SPDIF because it's not something you need to be concerned about. And then you have your fan and power up here. You know, like what we said, you need a power supply. You got your 48 volt up here, your gain, your monitor. All this good stuff is up here. The thing is, it's a USB 2 or 1, but it still does its thing. And then below, I figured out what I needed for my recording studio. I need to record multiple mics at the same time. I want to record drums. I wanted to use outboard gear, and I wanted different headphone mixes for the artist. And that's what this gives you 8 inputs, 6 on the back, 2 up front. You have your gain. And then your line outputs, these first 2 go to my speakers. These 2 go to my distressor. And these 2 I use to send out audio from Pro Tools of a different headphone mix. So that is in the studio. So what I can do while they're tracking is I can start mixing their stuff and they won't hear it. I could set up to where only I hear it. So it's all about what you need at the time. This would be overkill for you if you're just tracking your vocals, though. Just a little bit about monitors because you're going to have to buy some no matter what. And there's 2 types, passive or powered. Powered, you'll notice, costs more money. Passive are cheaper because you also need to buy amp. The amp powers the passive speakers. The powered speakers are powered, so you don't need an amp, but they cost more. Most people just buy powered, unless you're like in a bigger studio. Don't butt them up against a wall that's a common theme, right? Don't butt your audio sources up against a wall. And when you do set them up, this is more for the mixers out there. Just get, 60 inches from both speakers and 60 inches between one speaker and you. That just gives you the perfect balance, the perfect stereo image when you're listening. In other hardware, I don't see this talked about much, is a power conditioner. So this takes it's just like a power strip, or you could get ones that are rack mounted. It filters and cleans incoming AC power, which helps out tremendously because you can get funky stuff in your audio because of it. It helps with the longevity of your components that are connected to it because it's not dealing with all these spikes and dips. Your gear, it's the wear and tear on it's minimal compared to if you just plug into a regular power strip. It's a surge protector too. So what DAW to use? Whatever you would like. Nowadays, it's awesome, because back in the day, Reason didn't have recording capabilities, nor did Fruity Loops. Pro Tools and Cubase, and these are just a few examples, and Audacity, they all do it. It's all just really dependent on what you're comfortable using, what fits you the best. Most guys who are just getting into it probably just have Audacity, and that's fine. You know, I would never use it for mixing. I will say that, because that is awful. I don't know how you guys do it. Yeah, and I'm going to do another video in the future specifically for tracking in Audacity, just getting your gain and everything correct, and punching in and all that, just to get, um, good audio to send out or to use yourself to mix. For recording in a DAW, we're going to talk about it here, and I'll probably talk about it in the Audacity video too. Just a few terms. Just when you're setting up your session, it's going to ask you, what you want the sample rate. It's all these crazy numbers and whatnot, and you don't know what they mean probably. So, number of samples taken per second to represent the event in a digital domain is a sample rate. Just the way that hearing works, 441K and up, you're fine with. 44.1K is used on CD, so streaming audio online can depend. So when you export, not when you're recording. When you're recording, I would say work in 44.1 or 48K or higher, if you want. Just be aware that when you're up at 192, that if you're doing a bunch of tracks, your computer might have issues keeping up with it. So then bit depth is really just your dynamic range. So 1 bit equals 6 dB. And bit depth that we work with is 24-bit or 32-bit floating. And this just gives you more room before you're clipping, or at the low end, the noise floor. Gives you more range, so you can get louder or softer. This is the thing in that Audacity video that I want to get, is that the clipping and the noise floor. Another term is buffer size. So this, you need to keep in mind what mode you're in. Are you in recording mode or mixing mode? If you're in recording mode, you want buffer size low. If you're in mixing mode, crank it up so your computer has more processing power. The thing is, if your buffer is high in recording, you're going to hear a delay, like like artists who don't know what it is will be like, there's like reverb in my headphones, man, because they say something into the mic and then a brief second later they're hearing in their headphones. It's not instant. There's a big enough gap to where the brain recognizes it. So just fiddle with the numbers in the recording phase until you get something that is stable, so it's not crashing all the time and has no noticeable latency. So that's something like have a buddy over and just have him like talking to the mic or whatever. That's an easy way to do it and fiddle with it. And just another note on latency, because I've seen this pop up on the forums. People are putting, a lot of plugins on while they're tracking. Not all plugins, but quite a few out there are going to add latency to the system. So just look into the manual to see what plugins have low latency. Waves is really good with documenting it on their website. Like if you watch any of my other videos, I use the SSL channel because that's one sample. So it's awesome. I can have that on while tracking, and I could start tweaking and compressing stuff without it lagging out, without the artist saying, hey, what's going on? Just do your research. If you're on Pro Tools, there's an easy way to do it, to find out the samples of latency. Put the plugin on the track, and down where it says the dB underneath the fader, click on that. I think the second click is going to be your sample latency. And so like when I put on the SSL and I click that, it just says 1, you know. So you've recorded your next hit single, and now you need to export the audio into one file, you know, to MP3 or to WAV. And like I said, just in this example, we're using 2 different formats, either CD or online streaming. And this part is always dictated by where your audio is going to go, what medium. It's going to go on the CD, is it going to go in a movie, 5.1, fuck if I know. That's going to dictate how you output it. So your sample rate and bit depth at output. CD being 44.1K sample rate and 16-bit depth. So the bit depth comes down some from what we did on the recording stage, which was 24 and 32. That's why, you know what, I'm not going to go into why the 16-bit, but you don't want to record in the 16-bit. And then online streaming, I looked up the example for YouTube's audio, which I just didn't even know. They do 48K and they do 96K too. So even a bit higher quality. And they do a recommended bit depth of 24-bit. So, it's nice. And just a heads up, if you're just making something quick and you want to put on YouTube or you want to send an MP3 to your buddy, always add dither on the master chain. I'm not going to go into why, just do it. It does some little mathy stuff. It helps the audio. Unless if you're exporting the audio and sending it to be mastered. They'll do it at the end of the mastering chain. You won't need to do it. Now, if you're just outputting, you just want to send your vocals to a engineer and the beat separate for them to mix, you want to do things a bit differently because you're not looking to output it for YouTube or anything like that. You're sending it off to be worked on some more. So you want to keep the quality as high as when you recorded it. So a few options you need to know is the file type and the bit depth and sample rate, which we've talked about. So the sample rate and bit depth are going to be the same as your session. So we just talked about what sample rate and bit depth we're going to work in our session. So use that and just copy that over for when you output the stems, when you export the tracks. Export them in mono also. There's no need for stereo, and if it's in this case you would never have a stereo pair of anything, but let's say you do have a stereo pair of something, mark it in the file name left, right, that way the engineer knows. And output is WAV or any other uncompressed file format. WAV is just widely used, so it's going to be able to be opened in any workstation. And every DAW is different when it comes to outputting stems. So just Google it, and figure it out that way. You just want to always start every vocal track you have at the start, the 0 second mark, the first beat, just the beginning of the ruler. Just make sure those are all the same, and then when you drop it in, it's all going to line up where you had it in your session. So, and that's it, guys. I hope this helped out. I'm sure I forgot a few things on here. And So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like this video, join the Discord, and if you need me for any services, hit me up, sidedoormedia.email@gmail.com or sidedoormediastudios.com. There's a little box down at the bottom where you can type me out a message and I'll get in my email. So that is it. Peace out, guys.